In this video, I'm going to talk about the process of actually buying a note. Some people ask like, okay, how do I understand what note investing is, but how do I actually do it? How does the flow work? And how is this, where is this similar and where is this different from other real estate related transactions? So the first thing that happens is, uh, if you're a buyer of notes, you're going to find a seller. They're going to send you what's called a tape of notes. So a tape is just a spreadsheet. It has a list of notes with the addresses, other information about them, unpaid balance, payment amount, interest rates, typically some form of the pay history in it. So the first thing you need to do is find sellers and get those tapes. And then as the buyer, you're going to review the tape. You're going to filter the tape, figure out which of the notes meet your strategy and are ones that you're interested in. It could be that you're looking for either performing or non-performing or the type of non-performing. You're going to scrub this for things like what states it's in or what cities, and other parameters of the loan. You're going to find the ones you like. You'll submit offers to the seller. And actually, before you submit your offers, you're going to do some level of due diligence. Now, due diligence is kind of broken up into two stages. You do want to do a certain amount of homework before you submit an offer, not just to make sure fits your particular note investing model, but you want to do things like take a look at delinquent taxes, um, look up pictures of the property on Google Maps and other things. Maybe look at comps and get an idea if this is the kind of note that you're going to want. At that point, you're going to submit your offer, and then assuming it gets accepted, we'll be able to move on to the next step. Now, most offers are not accepted. I was tracking statistics for mine for a while, and I've kind of stopped doing that, but I get maybe 10 to 15% of my offers actually accepted. Most get rejected. So what happens a lot of times in this flow is seller sends you a tape of notes. I mean, a lot of times nothing may fit your criteria, and so you don't even place offers. Then you do place offers, and some percentage of the time they get accepted. But if we do get some offers accepted, now we move on to the post bid due diligence. This is where you're going to really do a deep dive. You're going to pull what's called an O&E, or an ownership and encumbrance report, or you could pull a full title report. You're going to get eyes on the property, so you're not relying on online photos at this point. And it's a whole subject for another video, but I use a pretty in-depth process for this. But this is where you're going to make sure that everything is in good shape, the property is what you think it is, and that all the documentation is in shape as well. So always have an attorney review the paperwork as well. And then if that works out, you're ready to close. Um, Most of the notes that I get offers accepted, I'm able to close, but I do find ones where I find problems in due diligence and I'm not able to get there. Sometimes I find out the property has issues. The property is, could be lower value than I thought it was going in. You could find that it's in just really bad shape. A lot of times I'll find flaws in the paperwork, and there are title issues that prevent me from closing. But if all goes well, then at that point, we're actually able to close on the deal. So the next question is, what does the closing process look like? And then once you do close, the loan will be transferred over to you. So closing on a note deal, and this is where it often gets a little bit different than a traditional real estate transaction. And I want to stress it is very, very important that you know your seller, know something about the seller, because the way that note deals are traditionally done, in my opinion, it's a little bit like the Wild West. Note closings typically don't use escrow. They can, there's nothing wrong with requesting it. But by and large, most of the deals that I've been involved in, that other active note investors are involved in, don't actually use escrow. So it's very important that you understand your seller, you have some kind of relationship there, you know who you're dealing with. Um, but when you've agreed to close, the first thing you're going to do is there will be a loan sale agreement that gets signed by both parties. Typically, the seller can provide this. Sometimes, when I'm a buyer, if I'm buying from an individual note investor, they may not have a loan sale agreement, in which case I use my template for it. But both parties execute that agreement. So that's going to define the notes involved, the sale price, and then some of the details on the dates around the loan transfer, and then what's called the cutoff date, which is the date after which, when payments come in, they now go to the buyer instead of the seller. Then the buyer wires funds over to the seller, and then the seller will initiate the loan transfer. So they will transfer servicing on the loan over to you, and then the seller will also ship you the hard collateral file. Having the original hard collateral file is very, very important. This is one area where I've run into problems in the past where the seller didn't ship the hard collateral file right away and I had to chase them down, or they shipped the file and there was something missing. I've always been able to get those issues worked out, but sometimes I bump into them and they're a pain in the butt. The other way that's been used increasingly is through paperstack.com. So paperstack.com, just a online exchange for notes. I have no attachment to them other than I use the platform to buy and sell loans, and I like it. That's why I mention it here. Paperstack is a lot less of the Wild West than the traditional method. So in this case, they have a whole comprehensive checklist, but basically the difference from the quote-unquote traditional process is the buyer, instead of wiring funds directly to the seller, they'll wire them to escrow. And then the seller, instead of shipping the hard collateral directly to the buyer, they're going to ship it to an auditor. And then the auditor is going to go through that file and make sure that everything's in order. So if you run into some of these problems, like I've run into the past where something's missing or something's not right, the auditor will catch that. Now, once the auditor verifies that the hard collateral is in good order, then they initiate the loan transfer. The funds get wired from escrow to the seller, and then the hard collateral gets shipped from the auditor to the buyer. In my opinion, this flow, whether it's on PaperStack or just doing it somewhere else, I think is kind of the way to the future as note investing becomes more popular and a little less of a niche thing. I think we'll see a little bit less of these Wild West style transactions. So I hope that helps you better understand how to close on notes. And if you want to learn more, please check out our website at fusionnotes.com, where we've got a lot of other information to help you out on your note investing journey. And as always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can get to by the address here or clicking the thingy on the bottom right. Thanks.